Wow. Andrew, it's
Timmy.
here. It's Monday.
We're right on time. This is what happens when Frank abandons us to go raise money for his church plant. We're
We
20 minutes late.
it doesn't look nearly as good. It hopefully it sounds okay, but we're still here. We've missed you. We've missed each other.
You know, I was setting up the old school space today, and I thought, wow, it's been a long time, and my office is really messy.
It's been a
And
while.
miss
I don't
being
know
here
if
with
I don't know
Timmy.
if the autofocus is really locked in on you right now, but you know what? Slightly blurry Andrew is just as good.
Slightly blurry Andrew is a separate mood, and we're just going to go with it. Because
roll.
yesterday was Sunday.
And this is the morning after.
Welcome to the Morning After Ministry Show, a caffeine-fueled look back on the week and ministry that was.
Andy, we're here. You're here. It's Monday.
We're back.
303 consecutive Mondays we've never missed. That's a lie. We've missed. But 303 times over the last
We
several
actually missed
years.
the last 2 Mondays consecutively.
303 Mondays. We've been at this. We've been chatting the week in ministry that was, and it's safe to say that ministry rarely gets boring. It's always different. There's always something new
There's
to navigate.
always something going on.
If you are an avid viewer of this show and you are not currently in vocational ministry or BIVO of some sort, that's okay. We welcome you too. Just know that if you are, we're here for you. We know that it's been an interesting couple of weeks. Not exactly easy to navigate.
It's been bonkers. But
It's been wild.
Timmy, I think before we get into the elephant in the room,
We have to talk about City Lights Church. I agree. They're here.
Listen, if you're in
John
Scranton,
Legend.
PA,
John Legend is not in. They're wondering if we're late because John Legend was in town. He's on a
no,
different
we're
tour.
late because there's random tech issues when you're running things this way, and you have to reboot software when you haven't done things in a while. But that's okay. We're here.
Ben,
we're here.
Good morning to
We're
you,
doing
sir. City Lights. I wore my City Lights shirt at our men's prayer breakfast about a week and a half ago, and it was like a big hit. Everyone's like, check out Tim's shirt, and I was like, no one ever says that when I wear my Lakeview shirt, but I wear one City Lights shirt, and everyone's like, that's awesome. Like, you know what?
I wore mine into the office last week, and 3 different people were like, hey, City Lights Church. Because apparently we have people in our churches that listen to this, which means we should behave a little bit more often than we actually do. But maybe they listen because we don't behave. We have.
Now, if you were to go
Listen,
back in time,
I haven't actually gotten a reprimand since I told that one brothel story that one time.
You've told that story so many times, though.
I know, but I only got reprimanded for it once. And that's really all that matters, because sometimes when you're on a mission trip, you accidentally take teenagers to a brothel, not to witness and share the love of Jesus, but just to get a haircut. And it's not until you're taken into the back room.
We had one titled Timmy Tells All, like the Monday after a crazy event at Lakeview, and I had to navigate a few conversations after that one.
Forgot about that. Yeah, we probably should have waited a few weeks on that.
Maybe should have
the
waited.
lesson.
It was
Just
like
wait a
12
month and you're
hours
fine.
later, and we were already talking about it online in front of, 7 people. It's just crazy.
Where it was recorded and put out for posterity's sake for all the world to find ammo against you.
Oops. But here we are, still going strong, several hundred episodes later, and this is what we do. We talk the week in ministry that was. This is kind of a space for pastors, church workers to chat a little, laugh a little. I don't know. I mean, all of the above. Like we try to provide that.
Give
that
a little,
community.
take a little.
Should we have a giving
Let
link?
your poor heart break a little.
If you
We
follow
should
this
have
link,
a giving link.
here's our Connect card. We'll reach out to you, let you know how you can get better connected with the show. Text
Listen,
this to give.
first time givers get a special handwritten note from Tim.
The morning
And
after swag.
just like at his church, he's going to do a search, and the first time givers with the highest equity in their current homes, he'll actually call you as well. Have you heard about churches doing this?
I have.
It's like
startling,
it's a thing where
startling.
people keep getting busted where they like find first time visitors and they get their address, and there's like interns going and like looking up Zillow and the property sale record. So, hey, here's what the house was last sold for. Here's what it's currently worth. So by our estimation, this family has $800,000 worth of equity in their home. So that's someone that deserves a personal phone call from the pastor.
I can't even. I have actually asked the elders to hold me accountable here, and I do not have access to giving records at Lakeview. So I have no idea who gives. I have no idea how much anyone gives, and I don't really. I mean, I care that we're all giving.
I care. We want to know who's participating, but I don't want to know at what
could there ever be a
level.
need for a team of individuals to know this data? Well, yes, because it turns out if you ever want to get a loan, you actually have to provide the numbers to, say, back up that loan, including giving units and how much people are actually giving. So I get that data is important, but for me as the lead pastor, I don't need to have that data, and I'm good with that.
You don't want to look at someone coming in and thinking dollar signs or cheapskate or whatever it may be. Yeah.
I mean, as soon as I see you, I know what I think, but that's fine.
Timmy, I want to talk about the bank stuff because a couple weeks ago we were supposed to get together and we postponed till last Wednesday. We went on a church tour to a booming church in our area.
That was fun.
But the week that we were supposed to do it, we couldn't because you guys had a meeting with a bank. Lakeview is growing. You guys are talking about building a new building. What's it like to be a project manager / pastor?
Thankfully, we do have a project manager in place, so I am now looped in on every piece of communication ever. So you thought you were getting a lot of emails before. It's been fun. I'm learning a ton through the process. I'm leaning on
You
the
get to learn about rainwater runoff and all kinds of fun things like that.
Site development plans, land surveys, architect fees, city fees.
Turns out they're not cheap.
Permit fees. I mean, just to get the ball rolling is like, oh, I could have had another staff member. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not even to actually do anything. It's just Our project manager likes to say, this is an expensive sport to play, and he is not wrong. He's done this at multiple, Andrew, you know that. He's done this at multiple churches in the area. He has literally decades of experience, so he's walking us through the process. We're very, very blessed to have him on the team. But it's a lot to keep up with. It's a whole new
It's an expensive
world.
sport to play.
Like for me and my job, I have like a whole new aspect of my job that I've never had to deal with before. And like, I'm fine with it. I'm just like, keep me in the loop. Let me know what I need to know and when I need to make a decision and when I need to sign a piece of paper. And that's kind of been my thing. I'll sit in on every meeting. I will sit in when we meet with the architect, which we did. I will sit in when we're meeting with CEOs of banks, which we have done our first of 4 meetings with area and local banks, which, by the way, as much as...
That means you get a free lunch, right?
Of course, I got a giant steak. As much as we might need a bank for certain things, the goal is going to be to completely raise the funds. Like that's the goal. Like we don't want to have to draw from anything. Tim, you should turn your mic up a bit or Andrew's down. Let me see. Andrew, talk.
This is Andrew talking.
Yeah,
Talking.
You're a little bit louder.
I'm sorry. I'm a loud person.
That's okay.
Tim,
we'll see how that sounds.
I'm very excited about the process. I do worry for you a little bit because you see all the statistics of the number of pastors that leave because of a building project is fairly astronomical. And with your staff getting smaller in a few months as Frank goes into full-time Cross and Crown church planter mode, are you anxious at all? Are you worried about the extra that's already going to be on your plate? Or do you think the elders and project management team that you guys have in place will do most of the heavy lifting for
as a staff and as an elder board over the last few months, knowing we're going to be walking through this process? I feel confident in the leadership team that we have in place. I know that, yes, my workload will increase. So yes, I'm going to have to, navigate that and balance that. And when Frank does start moving into full-time Cross and Crown church things come January, our staff is also aware that, we're going to have to divvy up those responsibilities, and we're in the budget process right now. So we're also looking at the staff budget saying, when and how can we add additional staff to cover for what Frank is
the margin that's left.
doing. It's yeah, exactly. Interesting timing, Mackenzie. Hope you feel better, Andrew. So I don't know, Andrew. You can jump into this. I can jump into this. I'll just I'll go first because I got a text and I won't say what it was, but I was a little nervous. And then Andrew goes radio silent after sending us a picture of him in the hospital. So I'm now texting Melissa nonstop because I'm like, is my friend alive? Andrew, what happened?
I wish I knew. Last Sunday, the reason we did not record last Monday is that I spent Sunday night in the hospital with no idea what was happening. I went in and it started with heartburn and then moved to my lower right side. And I was convinced that my appendix was about to explode because WebMD told me my appendix was about to explode. And I was in just about the most pain I've been in my life. I was cross-eyed and it was not good. And then, so I go into the ER about 2:00 in the morning and they take my vitals and blood pressure is way bad where it's not supposed to be. Pulse is way bad where it's not supposed to be. And I'm again about cross-eyed and can't form a coherent sentence. And so they think that these are the signs of someone whose appendix is about to burst. So they put me on a morphine drip, which was super cool. I'm a big fan of that. And then did all the testing and the full torso ultrasound, which actually hurt a lot. You don't realize this when the only real ultrasound experience you have is when your wife is getting an ultrasound, because they just push really hard on you. And when you're hurting and then they're putting a lot of weight into pushing to try to get images of your organs, that hurts. And then that couldn't tell them anything. So they decided to do a CAT scan. And apparently when they give you a CAT scan, they inject something into you that feels really warm and people think that they're peeing themselves because of it. But also at this point, I'm super high on morphine and they inject this thing into you that makes you feel like you are about to pee or are peeing yourself. And apparently I was making all kinds of inappropriate comments and jokes. And it worked out really well because the charge nurse in the ER that I was at was a former youth group volunteer of mine at my previous church who I know really well and love dearly. I did his and his wife's wedding. His wife was our kids person here at Safety Harbor for a season. So if you're in pain, but also being a little bit silly because of the meds you're getting, it's good to have someone who knows you in charge of the people poking and prodding you. And I got sent home early Monday morning with hey, you really need to follow up with your doctor. We're not quite sure if this was food poisoning, if this is gas. I was I'm pretty sure you would have known if it was gas. We all would have known by the way that she was pushing on me if it was gas. But it was awful. Literally the worst pain I've been in my entire life. And then I got home and I slept for 12 hours straight.
It was while you were sleeping for that 12 hours that my heart was racing. I thought I was going to go to the hospital because I couldn't get a hold of anyone. Melissa finally responds. She was very apologetic.
When I got home.
You were out of it. There was not much communication there. There was a good 24-hour period where it was radio silent. Melissa was obviously busy because she had to take care of the family without you functioning.
It's not like I help out all that much in that department.
I know, but still, she was worried about you. I was worried about you. She was very apologetic to me.
And she was tired because
I'm sure
she had to take me to the hospital. But also, I was like, no, you're not coming in because it's the ER. You'll just be sitting there.
It's the middle of the night.
It's the middle of the night. So I'm like, just drop me off. I was like, I can drive myself. She wouldn't let me drive myself. I didn't even tell her I was coming home. I took an Uber home. I just walked
That is the most Larson thing ever. You Ubered home.
She was not a fan of that. Also, it turns out the hospital is an $8 Uber ride from my house. So that's
a lot cheaper than an ambulance. So if there was an emergency, you could literally just Uber to the emergency room.
Uber to the hospital for
instead of $10,000,
front door,
it's just
$8. $8.
I wonder how many people have done that.
I have no idea.
It's been done,
but it's a good option. Now, I think if you come in an ambulance, you don't have to do all the paperwork right away, and they get you seen right away. But it was a slow night, and so I was in a room within 3 minutes after going through the front door. So that was helpful.
That's nice.
But the person in the room next to me, I'm assuming based on HIPAA stuff, because I can't know for sure what was going on, but I'm pretty sure he's a dude who had come off some pretty hard drugs and was
boy.
having a very hard time coming off the hard drugs.
It's a very interesting time to be in the
cursing
ER.
And puking. Yeah, it was unpleasant, and it's been a week, and I'm still not quite feeling all the way back to normal. So I have a doctor's appointment Wednesday, and they'll do the rest of the testing and tell me, hey, turns out you're just fat, and you.
I don't know. I feel like you've lost
fat.
like 20 pounds in the last 2 weeks.
Well, not in the last 2 weeks, but I'm working on it. I'm wearing a shirt that 3 months ago I could not wear because all of my Sunday Cool Safety Harbor Community Church shirts were size large, and once you size up, it looks really not flattering when you're wearing something that you shouldn't be. So I'm working on it, but yeah, it's been a weird couple of weeks. So that
Andrew,
was Sunday night into Monday morning.
That kicked off our very bizarre week.
Yeah.
Things got really wild on Wednesday. I got
because we went to that tour of that church in our area, which was very exciting. Shout out to Creekside Church.
We did a church tour, which was actually a lot of fun. Learned a ton. Realized that there are churches in the area doing some great things, and some almost like some old school types of ministries that are like rocking and rolling, like where the church is the central hub. But also
there's some people that are working 75 hours a week, and
yeah, but if you think about,
I'm not one of them.
Agreed. But God obviously, molds people and gives them different passions.
Yeah.
But like you and I, we both we've been around the megachurch movement for so long, so we've been kind of taught this mantra of the church is no longer the central hub. Let's get home groups in the homes. Let's move everything outside the church. Let's I think that the classic call of the megachurch is taking church beyond the walls of the church kind of thing. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Like I think it's a fair mission. However,
it depends on the context of where you're at.
Context matters. Because we visited a church where they would say, yeah, we absolutely believe in taking the mission of the church outside the walls of the church. However, God has blessed us with a pretty good sized space. We're right in the middle of a community. We're just a few miles away from a major university, University of South Florida, go Bulls. And we are interested in making the church part of everyone's life again, almost on a daily basis. Like their building was full on a Wednesday morning, and it wasn't even like their main Wednesday night program yet.
And the food was getting prepared for the main Wednesday night program.
Did it smell good?
As well,
Dude,
which smelled fantastic.
And they said they had just fed 500 people the night or two before.
And they were getting ready to do it again. Yeah, for the college ministry, and then they were getting ready to feed a bunch that night as well.
Did it bring back memories of your childhood where, man, we used to do this? Like we were at the church 5 days or nights a week sometimes.
Multiple days a week.
Yeah, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, choir practice, like all those things. They do a similar version.
Where the church is central to the life of the community. And I think that is a great thing. I like we said, I think context matters. Where we are in downtown Safety Harbor, there are not a lot of stay-at-home moms. What we saw when we were there was a community of stay-at-home moms who,
they had two different homeschool groups. I was like, why did they not meet up? But maybe they have different.
That meet there.
Maybe they have different philosophies of homeschool, but there's two separate ones, and they both share the space on different days. I'm like, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think if there are some communities that people move to that are a little bit out of the city center or whatever you want to call it, that you move there because you can afford to do the whole family on one income thing if you're there, or whatever it is, that might make sense. And I think that plays an important role. I don't know that right where you guys are located, that would necessarily work out as well, because
I don't see it having the same impact. It would be a fun interview to do with their church staff, maybe for a different podcast, but just hearing that ministry philosophy and the idea of church being the central hub, as opposed to always taking things outside the walls of the church, but utilizing what God has blessed you with.
Yeah, I think you have to have a really good facilities team, and you have to have
they had a good facilities team.
Yeah, they did. And you have to be very open-handed with all your stuff. Like, hey, my office is also a small group room.
And is that not what they said?
Sunday
Literally every space, including like the senior pastor's office, was multi-purpose space.
Yeah. So like all of the
genius.
books and toys and knickknacks behind me would have to go elsewhere, which would be fine. But it's
And they even said like in their green room area where they had musical instruments, like these are fair game. People can come in and play on them and use them. I'm like,
if you
wow,
if you leave your guitar here, it is up for grabs for anybody to play. Hey, there you go.
Bold statement.
I think,
so Andrew, that
cool thing.
kicked off our Wednesday, and then we're in a couple of group chats, and
then we're driving home.
We're driving home.
I was coming here, getting ready for youth group, and you were closer, so you might.
Yeah, because I'm starting to get. It was the afternoon, so I'm getting kids in their right spaces and taking my son to football practice and all that. And I get a text as I'm about to walk into Target with my daughter Lucy, and it wasn't loading, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And it was a link, and I couldn't get it to load. And then right as I was about to walk into Target, it loaded, and I hit the play button, and I had like an emotional reaction, like instantly, and I don't even know what happened to me.
It was like a guttural. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Obviously,
I had picked up my older two boys for youth group because Luke, my third, who's sixth grade this year, he had like an awards thing at school, so we were like playing musical parents who was going to be where. And so but I had a meeting here at church, so I was trying to get here by 3:30, and it was about 3:25. I was in the parking lot, and I opened my phone, and same thing. Whereas oh my word! Like, first of all, I don't want to say who sent it to us, but it was in the same group chat, so you should probably give somebody a warning before that is sent out.
A warning would have been good. Thankfully, none of my kids were watching it over my shoulder. I would just, happen to be looking down at my phone. It was just me. And it was, it was the close-up video of Charlie Kirk getting brutally gunned down. And it's like one of those videos you're like, man, no one should ever have to see that.
Do your kids wear headphones constantly? Or is that a my kids thing?
It depends. There are times when the headphones are on. They're typically AirPods. Yeah. Like they'll do the one AirPod in kind of thing sometimes.
Gotcha. That makes sense. My kids have a lot of the big noise cancelers, and so as we're driving, I'm listening to like sports talk radio, and they're each watching their own things on their phone.
They can't even hear what you're listening to.
So they can't hear anything going on. So we get to the church parking lot. I look at my phone in the parking lot, and I was like, "Hey, do not watch the video that you're gonna," because this is my 9th grader and 8th grader, and I shouldn't be laughing, but my 9th grader was like, "Oh, yeah, I saw that like 10 minutes ago. Sorry."
Yeah, by the time I could even get to my kids, it had already been put. My older kids, it had already been put in their group chats from kids at school and their friends. Like it was. Yeah. Yeah, we like our youth pastor here at Lakeview sent an email out the next day. I was like, yeah. And it was like kind of a warning to parents. I'm like, man, that like the speed at which things move.
You needed to send that out about 3 seconds after you.
It would have to be within seconds. Like we couldn't even get to their phones fast enough, which is unbelievably sad. So I had like a weird reaction. I typically don't show a lot of emotion when someone I don't know dies or passes away, even if it's tragically. I still mourn and I'm sad. But I was walking into Target with tears like coming down my face. I'm like, I couldn't even control it. It was a very odd response. And Lucy's like, "Dad, you all right?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't think so."
Yeah.
So it was like really hard for me to figure out why I was having such a very odd reaction. I mean, obviously it was a tragic situation.
I don't think we have ever seen anything quite as up close as that. The famous assassinations or whatever it may be. I think of like Jackie Kennedy crawling in the back of the limo,
right?
And that's grainy, 35 millimeter video. That's not 4K from 3 feet away. I can't imagine who would. I don't know if it was a live stream that someone posted. I have no idea where. I haven't gone back and looked at it.
Yeah.
So I have no idea where the video that we got came from, but it was awful and in real time, and I just don't think we've ever seen anything like that. Also, any other time that there's been anything tragic like that, what you're about to see. I think that's what it was for me. Is I didn't. It was a, oh my, word have you guys seen this? Was the text that we got. And
Yeah,
then,
I didn't know I didn't know what I was watching. Like, I was just sitting there like,
Yeah.
oh, I've seen this guy before. Like, I've watched his videos from time to time. I had no idea what was about to happen. So I was just so, like, shocked. Maybe that was part of it, too. It was just completely jarring.
Yeah. And then how the world responded was a very interesting thing in the ministry world.
Yeah, I think you and I are kind of looking at it from a couple of different aspects because, you know, we talked about the dad component, which I'm sure you had just as many conversations with your kids as I did with mine about it. And one of my daughters, like Zoe, actually has been the most interested in continuing the conversation. And 3 nights in a row, she has opted not to watch shows with us. And she said, "Hey, Dad, is it cool if I just go watch some Charlie Kirk?" So actually it's been 4 nights now. 4 nights in a row, she spent about an hour and a half each night cycling through some of Charlie's famous debates at college campuses.
My children have not done that.
So like last night we were putting him to bed, and like Zoe wanted to chat through some of the debates and his take and my take, and like kind of how we can have an open dialogue with people at our school and in our families, and what it looks like to have conversations with people that's not mean or nasty, but in a way that's listening, but also not afraid or ashamed to have an opinion and to share that opinion, even if someone disagrees with that opinion. So I'm like, that's a really mature thing for a 13-year-old girl to want to talk about. And then my 16-year-old was right there too, and she's like, yeah, I want to talk about that too.
The conversations that we've had have been different, but it's been a lot of, hey, look, these people are losing their jobs based on stupid reactions because they're trying to make jokes on the internet. So the things that you say and the posts that you make now matter. People are, getting scholarships revoked. They're not getting accepted into schools that they thought they were getting into because what you say online matters.
Yeah, and freedom of speech, but not free from consequences. You can say whatever you want, but there'll still be consequences for your words and your actions.
Yeah,
that's a normal part of life.
My oldest had commented on a story on Instagram, and all everything that he posts, or every notification that he gets goes to my phone, and so he had posted something on like one of the stories, and he's a 15-year-old without any like real political opinions of his own. So one day he'll be far left, far right, whoever he watched last is about where most teenagers are. And but so he had said something about like the Office Depot or whatever that wouldn't print the things, and he's like, and it was something benign, like I don't think people should be celebrating when somebody dies, and hundreds of comments under his comments of like people just tearing him apart. And I was like, hey, like, good for you for standing up for somebody, but also this is what the internet does, and this is what the internet is. And are you prepared? You need to be prepared for whatever the outcome is if you are willing to post anything. Yeah. Because sometimes it's better to stay silent than to, if it's something that doesn't concern you, you are a 15-year-old with anonymous keyboard warriors calling you a bigot because you said you don't think someone deserves to die. And he is
crazy.
Not someone who would be far in any direction because he's a 15-year-old.
All right. So Andrew, we had to navigate this through a few different lenses as pastors. One was as dads, as husbands, right? Which, we had that conversation with our spouses, with our kids. And there's another interesting one that, you and I we've chatted about this before because events happen. Current events happen. Hang on, before we jump into that, let me see this from CJ. CJ says, as a husband, dad, and pastor, not being able to protect the ones in my care from seeing that video is what shook me. Agreed. My wife saw it and sent it to me. She has had a difficult time with it, and I know a lot of our youth from church have seen it. I got emotional too, realizing how broken our world is and how I may not be able to protect my kids, spouse and flock from it all. That's a really good take as a pastor and as a dad and as a husband. I think, CJ, that was like exactly how we responded initially too. And the other side of this as pastors. So, and like, there's no like judgment here, like how you feel the need to respond as a pastor. I understand that's going to differ in a variety of contexts. I guess my question for you, Andrew, and maybe I already know your take on this, and like, this can be the Charlie Kirk situation. This can be you insert any major
topic. Not know my take.
I could, but let's just do we have an obligation as pastors to have a take on everything that happens in our culture? And so there's like a follow-up here. It's two-parter. That's the first question. The second one is it our job or is it our responsibility to then air our opinion on social media instantly in real time as everything is happening? Like, is that let's start there. There's more aspects to this question, but I want to start there.
I hope not.
It's a lot of pressure.
If so,
it's a lot of pressure.
Very derelict in my responsibilities, because we have the local churches that we see their stuff and we'll like send it back and forth to each other. But whenever there is an event and there's I'm thinking of whatever pastor it is that you're thinking of, that you just know that you know what the video set is going to be. Hey, church, want to come to you today. Pastor so and so here want to come to you today.
It's almost like a presidential address. Yeah,
but it's to your 300 or 400 people in your congregation, or your 3,000 people, or your 30 people, whatever it is. And I don't feel the need to do that. In fact, I almost would push back against that more fully, because I think my job as a pastor is not to tell my people what to think. It is in some ways to teach them how to think biblically, but it's kind of like, hey, our job is to equip the saints to do the work of ministry, and our job is to equip the saints to think biblically. And so sometimes that means, hey, here's an example of how I'm biblically thinking through whatever this is. But if I've done a good enough job as a pastor, if I've done a good enough job in preaching and teaching for whatever it is that we're talking about, and to the person who just texted me that they know exactly who we're talking about, close, but no, not who you think I'm talking about, a different person. But that's another great example. I think my job is to get my people to think biblically, not to say, hey, here's what I am thinking, because what I am thinking is oftentimes flawed. And I recognize who I am and how my wiring is. And it's funny because by not coming out and addressing certain things, I have people like asking me if I'm more progressive or more liberal than they thought I was. I'm like, I consider myself to be pretty conservative in most areas of my life, certainly theologically, and politically, I'm pretty conservative as well. But I don't think that those things are necessarily one and the same with biblical thinking. I recognize that part of it is how I'm wired and how I think, but I don't think that everybody in my church is necessarily entitled to, and I know that the wider church is not entitled to my thoughts and opinions on every situation. And I also know that my thoughts and opinions on every given situation do not necessarily edify the body of the church. So why would I be in a hurry to share them then? If someone calls me and say, hey, Andrew, can we talk through this? Or Pastor, I'm struggling. Here's what I'm struggling with. Then heck yeah, we're going to have a conversation. Yes. I'm probably going to get angry with you. I might cry with you, but I don't have any urge to feel like every time a national event happens that I need to get up and make an announcement to the world of, hey, everybody, here's what I think about this. And it doesn't, and this past Wednesday was horrific and tragic, but it's just the latest example of why do people need my opinions on this? We went back and forth with this a couple years ago during the last election cycle. Yep. And it was can you imagine feeling like we had to make a church-wide announcement every time something happened? exhausting. And are you not expecting your people to be able to think biblically for themselves ever at that point?
It's
I don't know.
interesting because
I know that you and I line up slightly differently on this, but it's not like you are giving a State of the Union address either.
I didn't give a State of the Union address. I had multiple people, hey, Tim, you were noticeably quiet on social media this week. I was kind of sad. I was mourning with a lot of people, and I was on social media, and I was reading a lot of things back and forth on social media, and that might have been unhealthy for me to do because I saw a lot of nastiness, particularly from Christians.
It's almost like you can see how people get radicalized by going down the social media black hole.
It was really sad to see.
If
and so
you're
then I
in an
started
echo
getting
chamber,
I don't know if you got these text messages, but people are like, hey, we're going to say something, right? I was like, yeah, like we'll talk about like how to point back to Jesus in all situations. Like our mantra at Lakeview is on the back of our t-shirts, for the glory of God in all things. Like, I have an opinion on all of the things.
And all things means all things. It doesn't mean
that's what I'm saying. Like
things,
if we have a mission and
things.
vision where it's all for the glory of God, and it's in all things, that's going to be in all things. Now, did I have church members wanting to call and chat about stuff? Yeah, I took those calls. I met with those people. Did I post on social media when I was doing that? No, that's no one else's business, and it's not my place to do that. Mm-hmm. Am I condemning any pastors who felt really strongly and wanted to share their thoughts? Honestly, no. I'm not really upset about it. I actually gleaned from some area pastors who did share their thoughts, and I was like, that's a really good take. And that was actually helpful for me. And I think it might have been helpful for a lot of people who were trying to process things as they were navigating through this. Now, here's the other side of this, Andrew. They're probably.
I think part of that is knowing your church.
Yeah.
Like in general, if that is the culture of your church where you are expected to come out and say something, then fine. That's a different thing. And like we say all the time, you have to pastor the church that you have, not the church that you wish you had. And so there are times when a pastor needs to come out and say something, and I get that.
We in one of our group chats, we're in a couple. One of our pastors' group chats with area pastors. I think the conversation started, "Hey, are you guys going to share?"
Not the one where we were sent the video.
No, different chat.
Solicited.
The conversation started something like, "Hey, are you guys going to share any cultural event update on Sunday?"
Yeah. Are you going to address it?
Yeah. Are you going to address, and specifically, the Charlie Kirk situation? And one person said, I opted not to share on social media because I want to share from my pulpit with my people. And I was like, I really respect that. Mm-hmm. Like I really I genuinely respect that. And he actually took a lot of flack because he didn't have a bunch of social media posts this week about anything, but he did tell us that he was going to be very open with his people on Sunday. And I was like, yeah, I'm good with that. Like I can really see both sides of this. I'm not angry at pastors for overposting. I'm not angry at pastors for being a little bit silent and contemplating and praying. I do think we have a take, and there might be people in our congregation who look up to us and are looking for guidance in this area, and we might have a responsibility to share where we're at.
Yeah.
Because it could be helpful for them, and it could open a door for dialogue for them. So we did share and talk about it on Sunday, and that was a decision that we made. I actually used a little bit of what was sent to us, Andrew.
Our buddy Adam Powers is way smarter than either of us.
He put in the chat, hey guys, here's what I'm going to share. Feel free to use it, tweak it. And I was like, oh man, that's really good. Like that was kind of.
If you ever get to be in a chat with Adam Powers, you want to just use what he says. You don't need to tweak it. Change the name of the church. But other than that, say what Adam says.
But I mean, I saw another pastor comment, if your pastor does not mention Charlie Kirk on Sunday, you need to find a new church because your pastor is a coward.
Well, but that was Mark Driscoll, and it was clickbait. And at what point?
But how many pastors saw that and felt this pressure of I
gotta rewrite my sermon or whatever? And to be fair, like in our community of pastors, we have people that rewrote sermons based on wanting to address it. And that's, if I think you got to follow the Holy Spirit's leading, but not once did I feel the tug to redo what we were doing.
I didn't have to rewrite the sermon. I did add that piece in, and there were some elements in the sermon where it just lent itself well. We're in Exodus chapter 1, and it just so happened to be...
you guys just started your Exodus series.
And it lines up really well with what's happening, because the more Pharaoh oppressed the people, the more that God's people multiplied. And I was like, that's really pertinent for what we're seeing today. City Lights Church, that's kind of what we're getting at. He said, I've seen some say you're an enemy of God if you don't talk about it. That's a really hard take, right?
I think that's you better be addressing anybody and everybody who ever claims Christ as Savior if they're killed then. And again, public execution, assassination is a way different thing. And I think what makes this so unique is, I hate to call it viral, but the virality of the moment. I mean, I don't think ever in human history have as many people seen somebody executed so up close, and it's awful.
But do you think there were some people that were like, I wonder where my church stands on this? I think that's like a valid question. Like, is my church okay with this? Are they upset about this as well? Like, that's a valid question, right?
If you think your church is okay with murder, you need to find a new church.
Agreed.
Altogether. I mean, you just like in general, if you think your church is okay with the loss of any human life, you need to probably go out and do something and find a different church. So but I mean, it's I took a different approach than you did. I kind of took about Friday afternoon was when people started asking, hey, are we saying or doing anything differently? And my take was no. Like, well, we have an extended time of prayer in each and every one of our services where we pray for our nation, we pray for our elected officials on the local, state, national level. So people are prayed for by name, specific issues, whether it be hurricanes or natural disasters or unrest in the world, is addressed each and every week in our church. But if we were not praying for like the Minnesota state senators who was executed, we didn't mention that person by name. And I don't remember praying for Tulsi Gabbard when she was shot. There were lots of other events of political violence that have happened that we didn't take a pause to address. And so for me, it was, we're going to pray for our world. We're going to pray for the events happening in our world, but I'm not going to take a 10-minute Mr. Rogers detour and, hey guys, let's have a chat as I go into my thoughts and feelings on it.
All right, we got a lot of comments coming in. I want to get caught up here. City Light says, I think the better pastoral thing is to not have a take on what happens, but talk about the root of what caused these things to happen. And I'd say yes and no, City Lights Church. I think it is possible to have a take, but also talk about the root cause of these things. And I think it's okay to have a disagreement there. Jeff says, I've always looked to pastors for restraint, unity, and pointing back to Jesus, yet I'm seeing less and less of that. CJ, I didn't know Frank posted on Cross and Crown about all this. CJ, you would. Frank, I don't.
He said he didn't see.
Frank is on a 2-week journey right now. We'll update you on his travels. If you're not following them, they're doing like a Ryan and Haley Trahan style 50 States in 50 Days video series. It's so much fun. Brittany says, if people are looking to the pastor for what their thoughts and beliefs, they're idolizing the pastor instead of looking toward God. City Lights, I've seen some of you say, yeah, this is what we're talking about. You're an enemy of God if you don't talk about it. And Bree, we were just chatting about this. Like I'm not going to lie. Like I could feel a little bit of this pressure this week. Bree says, I've seen on social media people upset that their pastor didn't mention Charlie and are now looking for a new church. Riley, and so Riley's take here is one of the reasons why we actually mentioned a lot of the recent tragedies by name on Sunday, because they were all very, very tragic. But we could also acknowledge that Charlie's hit home for a lot of people because I mean, I heard from young men at Lakeview tell me they felt like they lost their older brother. So yeah, it was really
Yeah.
tragic, and it did hit home for a lot of young people, especially young men. Riley said I had a slight issue with those who not only address Kirk, who only address Kirk and not the trained victim, and address all the evil. Yes, you can highlight the one that everyone is talking about, but I feel the other needed to be at least mentioned as well because of the nature of the murder. Jeff says polarizing one way or another statements like that are exactly the problem that led us here. Rick says, Tim, you were great on Sunday. He also introduced us to a new Bible character, CrossFit Hebrew women, popping out babies in record time. Andrew, sidebar, true story. So you know Exodus 1. You're familiar. You've read the book.
Yes, I'm familiar. I've read it.
There are two midwives mentioned that were not, and maybe they were on your felt boards growing up in Sunday school. They were not on mine. This is Shifra and Pua. They were not on my felt boards. However, they were two Hebrew midwives that said, and what we thought might be a joke, we were unable to capture the Hebrew boys because the Hebrew women were pumping out babies so fast, they were literally giving birth before we got there. And so I made a joke about it. And after second service, one of our Lakeview gals came to me and she said, "Hey, Tim, I'm a midwife." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." She goes, "I need to tell you something about that story." And I said, "Okay." She goes, "I've been doing this for several decades, and I'm telling you, the women who are in great physical shape crank out babies faster." So note this, the women who were serving and being forced to do manual labor
who were being forced to make bricks with no straw.
Arguably in unbelievable shape. So like what we thought was a joke was actually a factual statement. So I got to bring that element into the third service,
awesome.
Which, dude, I love that so much. All right, that was a sidebar.
My mother
that was a sidebar.
Is a retired labor and delivery nurse. And when she moved to Florida, so when my family moved to Florida in 1991, she suddenly had a lot of patients that spoke Spanish for the first time in her career. And she learned very quickly that the Spanish word for push was empuja. And that's how she remembered, because I think our church was going through Exodus at the time.
That's
and,
perfect.
When you're a labor and delivery nurse and they're talking about midwives, you pay attention a little bit closer. And so she's like, "Oh, okay." So like my whole life since I was like 8 or 9, I've remembered that that's how you say push in Espanol, but it's also the character there in Exodus chapter 1.
City Light says, "My sermon was done, but it was on Blessed Are the Merciful." Good. So I was able to fit the cultural moment in, but keep the heart of my original message. I would agree. That's kind of where I was too, City Lights. CJ says we're in the middle of a vision series, stayed with looking at our vision, mission, values, led us to talking about how now is not the time for passive Christians and how we need to be bold and faithful. This is a good take, and trust God as we reach the lost. Yeah. It was more of an opportunity to remind folks of the evil in this world. So Andrew, I got to tell you this one. This is great. I had a Lakeview different gal, come up to me on Sunday, and she said it so nonchalant. She said, "Tim, I pulled a Charlie and I shared my faith and invited someone to church." And I'm like, I really hope people say that about me. Like, I pulled a Tim and I openly shared my faith. Like, how cool would it be for your name to get used in that way? Like that. And she said it like, "This is how I've been talking all week. Like, I pulled a Charlie and I shared my faith." I'm like, what a way to be remembered. Like, come on. Is that not awesome?
Yeah.
Ben says, "I didn't rewrite, but did apply current context and events as they fit. I was in John 4, woman at the well."
I was in John 4 as well.
I was about to say, weren't you guys right there?
We should have shared a manuscript. That would have made
talked about how Jesus is a bridge builder. Ooh, Andy, I hope you went down that road. That's good.
I did. We talked about how the lesson of the text is, because comparing it to John 3 with Nicodemus, and the compare and contrast, and it's that Jesus is for everybody, man, woman, religious.
Lean in and don't isolate. What a great message for the times. Well done, sir.
Yeah,
totally agree. Matt, you got a lengthy one here. We're gonna give it a go though. "I'm just tuning in, but I can concur that I have heard that people are willing to leave their church because Charlie wasn't mentioned. I mentioned the acts of violence as a whole, but really focused on how we as Christians react to the reactions. I focused on, as Christians, we must never forget all are made in the image of God, and therefore all have dignity." Agreed. I was thankful that I got a good reaction from the congregation, not for agreement, but that it was encouraging and challenging. Steph says, I was wondering if she was watching. You're homeschooling. How are you watching? Maybe that's why Zoe pretty much fell out of me in the hospital. I was my best physically when I was pregnant with her than I was with all of my other pregnancies. There you go. She can concur with the Hebrew midwives. Ben says in Colorado, we also had a school shooting that added to everything going on. Yes, you did. I addressed Kirk, the shooting, the Ukrainian woman killed, as well as the remembrance of 9/11. Ben, that's really good to include all those. Evil is present and real, and we are ones to be light, the light of Jesus in the dark. Be bridge builders. Lean into those conversations. There's a lot of good takes here, Andy. Like really good takes.
And I think it's important to note that they're not all the same. Like
that's okay.
Not every church and not every pastor needs to respond exactly the same way. I think one of the things that you and I have talked offline, we text like 12-year-old girls. We're always going back and forth about different things.
Sure.
But both of us had attendance impacted by where we were going.
It was, Andrew, it was the, like outside of Easter Sunday, this was the largest Sunday of the year at Lakeview. And it was the middle of September. That's not typically how that goes.
So, and I had multiple people that typically worship elsewhere reach out and say, hey, is the service going to be, a funeral dirge for Charlie Kirk, or is that gonna, is your sermon changing? And I said, no, like, well, good, because it is at our church. We'll be there. And I thought that was an interesting thing as well, because I think there's people on both sides, and no one's on the side of murder, but I think people are on the side of, hey, we don't want to politicize things in the church, and we don't want our church to be a political movement. We want it to be a spiritual movement. And I don't know. It was a heavy week, because whether it's a pastor that doesn't know you and would never return your call if you tried to call him, saying that you're a coward for not changing your sermon, or people saying, hey, don't you dare address something that I don't want addressed in church. I don't know that I've had a week where I felt more differing opinions in what I should be doing or preaching, which is odd, because most weeks I think people want to come and hear a message that they can, apply 2 or 3 points and then get in the car and drive away. I don't think most people most weeks are showing up at church expecting to hear a specific thing.
I think I remember, even though I was young, I remember a similar reaction after 9/11 when that following Sunday churches were packed out, right? I don't know how long it lasted, but I very clearly remember as a young man in the church being like, wow, there's a lot of people here that I have never seen before.
This pew that's been my family's pew for 23 years has other people in it.
Yeah, normally I have room here and I can play with the communion cup holder and I can like carve my initials on the back of the pew in front of me. I wasn't doing that Sunday. There was too many people that were watching me.
I couldn't even play hangman on the tithe envelope because somebody else had it already.
But what do you think that is? Like what was the draw there?
I have seen so many videos on social media in the past 24 hours of, hey, I went to church for the first time in a decade. I saw one that was like a young conservative mother saying, hey, my husband and I took our kids to church for the first time. They're 3 and 5. And the events of this week made us realize that we were doing our kids a disservice by not having them in and around church. And I think, hey, if that gets your family in church, then awesome. But also, if a political dog whistle is what's going to get you into church, then what's going to get you out of church, or what's going to keep you from church as well, is a concern for me. So I do you know what? Where we just talked about the glory of God in all things, and God can use assassinations to start revivals. God can use tragedies to bring people close. In fact, that's kind of the hope of anyone's story.
Yeah, I mean, Bree says it beautifully, right?
Tragedies
people are looking for hope.
Yeah.
We felt that. Like on our neighborhood's chat page, like the Trinity chat, which is like our local Facebook group, I don't know that I've ever seen more people say, hey, looking for a church this weekend, ever, in 1 week than I saw this week. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was something. You can't just like say, oh, that was nothing. Like, it was definitely something. And people showed up like in droves, like a lot of people that I have never seen before, and had a lot of really good conversations. So whatever the reason was that brought them. And we did use social media to promote coming to church on Sunday. Like, I thought that was a really good opportunity to say, if you are looking for hope and you're confused, we want to introduce you to a guy who has the answers. It's not Tim, right? We got a much better guy. His name's Jesus, and he's pretty awesome.
So thank you for clarifying, not Tim. I didn't think you were talking about Tim, but
You thought
one
that.
of the things
You were like, they wanted to meet
no.
you. No.
One of the things that I kept thinking of this week, as you and I were sending each other screenshots of the different pastors that were making their public addresses to, hey, I want to address what's going on. Do you remember the North Point parody video from several years ago when they did the contemporevent and all that thing? And they're like, breaking down the elements of the service. And it was like, one man has all the answers. That kept, like, that voiceover kept playing in my head every time I saw someone say, hey, church, I want to jump on here real quick and address whatever. It was that one man has all the answers. And I
see this is why I hired this guy. This is Pastor Frank at his finest, Andrew. He says it's like that passage in the Gospels where the tower fell and it killed some people. Jesus used it as an illustration to turn people to faith. I think these tragedies have an implicit movement in our hearts to point us back to God. I think that's a great take. I think that's what we're seeing right now. So then we have then we do have this responsibility on us as churches and as pastors. And like, how are we going to care for these people and love these people and point them to Jesus? Like, I don't think we can just write it off like, oh, that was just a one-off Sunday. I think we have like a great responsibility to now love on them and
steward the people that God has entrusted to you.
and point them to Jesus. All that to say, it's so easy being us, Andrew. We have very little things on our plates these days. So much free time.
Yeah. There's nothing going on. Tim, I want to change the subject because we did the serious Tim and Andrew thing for a while, and it was
needed.
It was about twice a year we can be serious for a half an hour. But Tim, tell me you have a worship leader whose family doesn't care about sports without telling me that you have a worship leader whose family doesn't care about sports by explaining to me why you had a night of worship during the Steelers-Chiefs game that's been on everybody's calendar for 3 months.
So we're in the Tampa Bay area, so we made sure for my sake that the Jags game was at 1 o'clock and that the Bucks game was on Monday night, excuse me. So I actually did have the calendar in front of me, and we were able to plan around the favorite sports in our area. So to be fair, we did map around that. City Lights, I didn't want to bring this up. You brought this up, so you can blame this on yourself. If you're watching the Jaguars game yesterday, the Bengals have one shot left. They've got to go. They've got to get in field goal range to tie. They can get a touchdown to win, basically, and they have to overcome a fourth down, and they target our rookie. Maybe you've heard of him. He plays both offense and defense.
I would say a rookie who has a Heisman Trophy and
Yep. So they directly target him
talent
on a pass, and if you watch the replay, you're like, this is great coverage, man. I'm talking stride for stride, hand on hip, but normal hand on hip, like that's what you do as long as you get your head turned. So the pass is in the air.
When I dip, you dip, we dip.
That's the one. Passes in the air. He's got his right hand on the receiver's hip, which is legal as long as it doesn't alter the movement of his body. He glances his head around, finds and locates the ball, and then swats the ball away. Incomplete pass. Essentially, with under 5, there would have been under 3 minutes at that time. We would have been in field goal range. We could have drained the clock, kick a field goal. Game probably out of reach by that point. But instead of the game being over, a penalty flag comes out, and it's a 15-yard penalty, and the rest is history. We can no longer stop them. They go down the field, they score, and I have to barely sleep because I'm replaying that as well as a drop touchdown pass over and over. I don't want to talk about Andrew. Can we move on? I can't go in this right now.
I'm just looking at what CJ says plays defense. Not much from what I've seen.
I mean, if you look at the play again, it was a textbook cornerback, defensive back play. Exactly what he should. Like, what else do you want him to do there? Not knock away the ball?
You hurt their all-world quarterback for the next several months. So that's something. But so in the middle of week 2 of the NFL season, when everybody still has hope, and I don't, if you were to take a poll of your church, I would say obviously the Buccaneers are the favorite team at church, and maybe because of the huge number of children that you have, the Jags would be the second favorite team at the church. But both both
Andrew,
Philadelphia
Duval,
and the Chiefs would be
like,
top
Duval
5
has found Lakeview
favorite teams in the church. I wonder why.
It's very strange. We have multiple like
Churches
Duval
take on the
fans.
personalities of their pastors.
I'm like, you guys are Jags fans? Like, there's quite a few. So yes, we had a worship night on Sunday night.
You have
I will say we were intentional though. I wanted to make sure the Bucks weren't playing at that time because that would have impacted the attendance.
Because I didn't hear anything about it until this week, and I followed the Lakeview calendar fairly
This
closely.
was on the calendar since May.
Okay.
So since May, I think we had to tweak the date once. It was always going to be it was always going to be this Sunday or this previous Sunday, but as of maybe middle of June, beginning of July, it was going to be on this Sunday. So we didn't like spontaneously plan one because of current events. Now, did it work out that it was needed? Yes. Was it the highest attended night of worship and prayer in the history of Lakeview Church? It was triple the previously high attended one we've had.
Well, in fairness, attendance is probably close to triple what it was the last time you had one.
Yeah, that's accurate. We haven't had one in 3 years, and attendance is definitely 3 times as high. So we had a tremendous turnout. It ended up being really special. It wasn't terribly long. It was like an hour and 20 minutes. So if you were a football fan, you missed a lot of the ending to the 4 o'clock games.
Kind of like how long this podcast is today.
It's so long. But you're still home in time for Sunday Night Football. So there was that, if you wanted to watch the Vikings not do anything.
If you wanted to watch the worst game ever. But I get it.
Matt says, look, Matt, I have to deal with this every year. You don't understand. Like, I've been a Jags fan for a long time, so I understand the London games well. The Steelers are playing at 9:30 a.m. in 2 Sundays, so I changed the time of worship. He's kidding. However, what I'm not joking about is I have a couple of people in the soundboard who are well aware of my interest in the games and may or may not give me hand signals when things happen. Just saying. I'm just saying. I might get this signal. I might get this signal. It's somewhat distracting, but you got to stay locked in.
And then the sermon gets real hellfire and brimstone real quick.
Frank says there are some Steelers and Packers fans at Lakeview. Frank, good point. They were noticeably absent last night.
Huh. Interesting.
Wonder why.
Well, as a Buccaneers fan, I have a Monday night game, and since the Buccaneers have like won one of their past 10 primetime games, I'm a little bit anxious about this evening, but that's okay. I can be anxious.
Please just tell me
but
that
in everything by prayer and supplication.
Baker's going to bake and destroy the Texans because, well, you know. Frank says it was scheduled around Tim going to a Jags game. That's a true story. It was originally supposed to be last week until the schedule of the games came out in May, and I realized, I'm going to opening day, so we can't do the worship night when I'm in Jacksonville. So we pushed it by a week.
So then why didn't you do it the weekend before NFL season?
Something was happening. There was a reason we couldn't do it that weekend. But to be fair, Andrew, I looked at the Bucks calendar. Like, as you can see, the Bucks don't play till tonight. So this was intentional.
Tonight, yeah.
And guess what? The next membership class is the Jags bye week. Again, all of these things are intentional. I'm not afraid of it. Like people know it.
I understand.
Like September through December, I intentionally plan things around these schedules. I'm not ashamed to admit
because
that.
the Jags are not likely going to be playing in January. I get it.
I never plan out January. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about that. It doesn't even hurt me.
Listen, I have a bet with my 12-year-old on the Jags winning the division and at least 10 games. So Indy is scaring me a little bit because I don't want to lose a bet to
fake pretenders. Danny Dimes is not real. This isn't going to last. You know this. Andrew, we're getting off topic.
Says, I almost had the Manchester Derby on my phone yesterday. Thankfully, as a United fan, I did not. Listen,
That's funny.
CJ, we haven't talked about it here yet. I am back in school this semester because I like to torture myself. And I realized earlier this year that I was just a few credits away from a second master's degree from Dallas Seminary. And I like being in a classroom. And so I'm going back. And it just so happens that the one class that I needed to take is only being offered at the Dallas Seminary Extension campus in Belfast, Northern Ireland. And so I have no choice but to go to the UK for a week in November. And the Saturday that I am there, Man U is playing Tottenham Hotspur in London. And so I was looking to get tickets, and then the professor emailed and had to change the times of the class. And instead of it being a Thursday, Friday class, now it's going to be a Friday, Saturday class. So I do not get to take in a Premier League game
That's a bummer.
while I'm in London.
That's a bummer.
But that's okay. I'll go to a way less fun Northern Ireland Premier League game, which is going to be like 4,000 drunk people screaming in a
You get
high
to do
school
something.
stadium. I will. It'll be great. I'll be fine.
Andrew, it's 12:30. I've got to eat lunch soon. What is happening right now?
We've
This episode's
gone
gone
way
on
longer
so
than
long.
we ever do because we were trying to be serious. And
We had a lot
I
to
can
talk about.
assure you that
We've been out a few weeks.
next
You
week-
almost died last week. It was a lot.
Next week we won't be serious. We'll be back to ourselves, and we'll talk about if the disaster or tragedy attendance boost is continuing, and we'll let you know.
We'll keep you up to date. We miss you already.
Hey.
Andy, I'll text you in like 10 minutes because I'm sure we'll have stuff to talk about.
Hey, we'll see you next week.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.